Get ready, cause it's about time for you to speak your mind. Super Secret Girls Club. Super Secret Girls Club. Super Secret Girls Club.
Oh, yes. Welcome back, guys. This is Normies Super Secret Girls Club.
Secret Girls Club.
We are here. We are here. And today's host is Navi with guest and co-host here, Gabbie, Brie, Marketa, and we are here to discuss Naruto philosophy.
Naruto philosophy.
Naruto.
Oh, and also, you can say Naruto any way you want, because you know one of the biggest fight I got in conventions is how to say it.
Really?
Yes.
What are the different iteration of Naruto?
Because, you know, I love a good old American Naruto.
Naruto.
I love a good Naruto, and then I'd be like, it's Naruto.
It's like Marketa.
Marketa.
Favorite version of my name.
And then some people are like, no, it's Naruto. I'm like, you can say that all you want. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Exactly. As long as we know what we're talking about, I think we are good. But dude, there are so many names. I was just going over the names with Gabbie and it's like, this is how we say it, but it's okay if you pronounce it wrong because it takes a while to get to it. But today, guys, so we are here. Essentially, this is gonna be an open discussion format. Here, we'll discuss me and Gabbie have seen Naruto. No, me and Brie has seen Naruto, even though I was pointing at Brie.
Oh, yes, I've seen all of it, so I need the mods to mod me.
Yes.
To let me know what I can and can't
They
say.
will make sure to do that. You don't need to tell them twice.
Yes. And you guys know how much I have seen. I've seen till past, I will say, Pain Arc. That's where we'll stop it. And Gabbie and Marketa has not seen any of it.
None of it.
I'm just
Never
waiting for
even.
them to come out the wall like Zetsu.
I've never watched any anime, so
Any anime?
Never.
B-Stars.
Yeah, Chris wants me to watch Beastars, but
That's not how you should start.
Yes, kiss, fall in love.
It's so cute.
so I'm just actually gonna pause us real quick to let Chris know that the stream title says Rana's watching The Boys currently, so we're gonna get that fixed right now.
Rana is
Thank
not
you for
watching The
letting
Boys.
us know.
Clearly, there are 4 girls here talking about Naruto.
I also want to say that I'm fairly familiar with the character names and certain plot points because I'm the one doing the schedules.
Gotcha.
And so I often get spoiled on the shows that I don't watch because I just kind of need to be in a loop. So I know very, very, very little, but I know something. I know more than Gabbie.
I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure, Marketa. I feel like I might know a little bit more because I'm the one who deletes all of the spoiler comments on YouTube.
Oh, that is true.
But you don't know the characters, so the spoiler might not mean anything.
I can probably tell you all of the main plot points of Naruto show.
Okay, well, we gotta be careful here.
Also, hi, Watchdog, before you leave.
Yes. Perfect. All right, so I'm just gonna introduce the theme. So today, yes, we're gonna be talking about Naruto philosophy. Here, we don't really need to know about Naruto's story or anything. We essentially have a characters written down and their favorite quotes, their favorite philosophy, and we'll just have a discussion. We'll just see what we think about it, and Brie will know, but I won't tell if anybody is a bad guy or not. We just want to talk about if you do believe in this thinking, and if you do, and why not. And our perspective is essentially going to be perspective from girls' side. So you may or may not agree with it, but let's have open discussion. I want to have an open philosophical discussion.
I'm so excited. I'm sorry. I'm just so excited because I love talking about, like high topics like that. And I love that you like the format that you did by like not telling us who is bad guy, who's good guy. Because that's just kind of like adds nuance where you're like, you're only focusing on this one thing that this person said. I like it.
Can we also, because I thought philosophy was more branched out of very much like Malcolm X versus like Martin Luther King on the methods of it. Can I like go into, not the spoiling, because I know I can pretty much do like the bare outline of what it was, but especially with their philosophy, it's like, okay, yeah, but does that also contain like murdering a whole village? Because that is probably not the bee's knees.
No, everything. Like I love hypotheticals. I am all about hypotheticals. So if you're gonna talk about hypotheticals, let's do it, because obviously you cannot have a philosophical discussion without talking hypotheticals, because there's just so many scenarios, and
I just want to add one more
Oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
so
I just
sorry.
really fast before we continue want to address the chat and ask if the audio is high enough for you guys. So somebody let us know in the chat. We had a couple comments saying that the audio was low. If we've fixed it, let us know. If we did not, also let us know.
Yeah. Oh, do you want me to keep you put you all the way up to date after you say what you say to what's going on with Naruto? To the pin? Because it's not a lot.
No, I think that eventually one day in my life I will watch it. Maybe I'll watch it with my children. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to like know too much. I do want to say though, fair warning: do not put Malcolm X and murder in the same sentence in front of me. We're gonna have beef.
Oh, no. Are we pro or X?
All right, so much
I will fight
ado, we should get started. I am obviously gonna start with the main character, Naruto Uzumaki. You cannot have this without actually discussing him first, even though it was kind of a little bit harder to pick up his quote because his life motto is work hard and you'll be able to achieve whatever you want. So it's kind of hard to discuss on that. But I did come up with one quote that he had, and I think we can actually have a really good discussion on it. So it is, once you question your own belief, it's over.
So here's the thing. Naruto's the biggest hypocrite in Naruto Shippuden. Because even on this philosophy alone, he's always forcing people to change their opinions. He's like, we'll come back. Like, oh, no, oh, okay. Okay, so he's always like, he's, sorry, it's gonna be taking time to edit, but he's always trying to force the enemies who he fights to come back and see the side that he sees, but he doesn't change his own. And I'm like, well then why are you, live what you say. But also he's like that kid who just is like a super simp and needs to stop going to toxic people. So for that, it's like, yes, I understand. I like his philosophy of, yes, work hard, you'll do it. He's the everyman, like Dragon Ball Z. But he's also very much a hypocrite because I feel like he needs to challenge his beliefs more, and he could probably, keep his hair, his arm, his friend, like just make me more happy.
So what you're saying is the quote as written, you do not agree. You are okay with changing your own beliefs. Is that what everybody else?
I would say so.
Just for the chat's sake, Brie has is terrible about spoilers.
Okay.
Just be aware that it might happen. We've just accepted that.
I've got faith in Brie. She's
We'll try our best.
So
You
wait,
can-
just to clarify, like, where are we? Are we going up? No spoilers to the point where the Normies' reactions are?
That's
or?
what I assumed, but the weird is like we can't talk about the story. And the story, I feel like there's so much of the philosophy because a lot of the quotes that they say, especially with the battles, and you hear him crying, he's like, "We have to come back. This is the only way." Naruto thinks everyone in Naruto thinks their way is the only way, and they're all supposed to be miraculously changed by Naruto. And I feel like if Naruto challenged his own beliefs, he would literally save himself the majority of the battles he's in.
Yeah, but for the sake of conversation, I think we can definitely have a discussion on a quote without actually talking about much of the story, but just in general, like as a quote, forget that it's Naruto. Just somebody saying like, hey, if you question your own belief, it's over. Like, do you agree with that or not?
I personally disagree strongly.
Yeah. Why so?
Because you should be able to question. It's a belief. It's not fact. It's not the truth. It is your version of whatever you believe can be true or possibly a fact. But the nature of belief is that you should always question it. Otherwise, you become a bigot and you become like stuck in your own way without ever being able to change your mind.
Absolutely. Changing your beliefs and questioning the things that you know, and that's how you grow as a person.
Yeah.
So if you never do that, like if I would have never have changed my beliefs for the last 4 or 5 years, I don't think you guys would like me as a person. You know what I mean?
Same. Same.
That's just how you grow. So I don't agree with this quote.
I think
at
that's
all.
just like life, right? Like if you don't change when you're living your life, are you living life? Like, are you taking in what everybody or what you're experiencing? Because if you stuck, it's like, I'm not gonna change it. This is my belief. And I have a family members who believe that way. It's like, this is how we are. Even though they agree, they're like, I'm not gonna change my beliefs. Like, but you agree, but you're not taking that into consideration. So it's like, there's only so much I'm gonna have a conversation with you.
And so people, I'm like, this is very much clarified because I can't set all of these up. Like for the main thing I was referring to is Naruto and Sasuke. Sasuke already told you he don't like you. Leave him alone. Why are you trying to go ahead and impose your will on it because you think it's best? Secondly, same when we see with Zabuza. There is a lot of talk no jutsu if you actually go back and look. And he does fight. However, he only changes his mind more so with Jiraiya a little bit. But there's a lot of times, especially if you watch the full of it and you see things, if someone says they're not them and you keep telling them that they are them, you should probably hear it and stop trying to impose your will on them. That's what my thing for Naruto is.
And I think from this show and any other show, like I know Attack on Titan, like keep on saying like, hey, have a discussion. And the whole reason of having discussion, you want to make sure the other person can see your perspective. And if you don't believe, like if you don't think you can question your own belief, then how can somebody else question their belief? Like, you know, you gotta be able to take in yourself for making sure other person can take in.
We have a pretty good comment here. So Von Goa Flam says, Naruto ever said it's wrong to question your own beliefs though? What he says is, I'll never go back on my word. That's my Nendo.
Yep, that's my ninja way.
I don't remember exactly what episode it was, but when I was looking up the quote, that's the one thing that I continue finding it, that he said like, don't question your belief. And I think it could have been misinterpreted based on what it was said in Japanese, but him saying like, hey, I'm never going to go back on my word, or I'm never going to lose faith in myself, because I wrote down what belief really means, like it's trust, faith, or confidence in someone. And he himself like, don't lose trust in yourself, like have faith in yourself. That is fine. I think those words can mean something different compared to belief, but at the same time, like you having faith in yourself and what you believe in, and some points you have to question it.
Okay, I think I understand. So from where I was coming from with my initial comment was basically just like religious beliefs or like beliefs about like where people come from or life, you know, like what is life, like that type of thing. And I think that you need to be flexible on that because nobody knows. We've literally been asking this question for millennia and nobody knows for certain. So that's where I was coming from. Also, I noticed that some people in the chat were asking how, like, you know, have we watched it or not? We kind of talked about it at the beginning of this podcast. If you missed it, Gabbie and I haven't seen any of Naruto. We're literally just here to discuss the philosophical points of some of these quotes. Brie and Navi are the one that can give you a little bit more background. So don't stone us to death if we get something wrong, because we have no idea what happened.
And this is close to my heart because I grew up on Naruto. I come from the Naruto clan and very much seeing it, it's very much that. But I do feel like I do appreciate, though, Naruto's hardiness, but I feel like sometimes it really just turns into bullishness. But I do appreciate that he's like, stick to your values, stick to your beliefs, yes, but I do agree that you should always challenge them.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I think that's for everything. And yeah, like Marketa said, like not all of us have seen Naruto. On all of it, I'm still watching it with normies, but we're just gonna have a discussion. We'll just take a quote and see what it means. So
can I just add one more thing?
Go for it.
I think that there's probably like a couple like foundational stones of yourself that probably are like, you cannot shake them, then you will just like, everything will fall apart. And so like, I guess like morality to some extent is one of those foundational stones of your personality. And I mean, if he's talking about that and like trusting in his own, like knowing what's good for him or bad for him, or perhaps even in a empathetic way, what's good or bad for others, I guess that's something that should not be shaken, because that can be dangerous for society. But in terms of like belief systems of like, you know, like what is a higher power and like what is life, I think that you should be very flexible with that.
I agree with that, and I feel like if we're doing it full philosophical and overanalyzing, when I believe it's over, perhaps, because the one thing that we do see in Naruto a lot is the cycle. It's recycling, it's the reincarnation, people changing their ways no matter how far they've gone is a theme that they repeatedly showcase. Perhaps
there's
maybe what's the questioning? No, what's the reincarnation is more of people they realize, okay, my way's probably not the best, or they realize because it's more like the touch of Naruto, and people realize like, oh, he's so like. Nah, like it's really funny how you see like when you're rewatching Naruto, I'm like, wow, people like wank to Naruto a lot. Yeah. But it's more you actively see, and they have actually very good examples of people talking, comforting, hearing each other out, and comforting each other to that point, and then you'll see the miraculous. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's not the right way I've been doing it, and perhaps it's over for this time, and then you restart anew, and you go on a different path. They love paths. Path's the best metaphor. So when you question your own belief, it's over for this path. It's for you to start a new one.
You know, like, and going back to like foundational stones. Yeah, I think we all have those foundational stones, but sometimes those foundational stones may have been built based on where you lived, where your experiences were, and it's for you to change. Sometimes you have to change that, and it can be very scary. It like really, really is scary. Like one part for myself is like just changing from my own Indian culture, because that's what my foundational stone been, right? Like I lived it, I was born, and that's everything I heard is like so much part of you. And then all of a sudden you come to another country and everybody believes something else, and like you have to adapt, and it takes a while. Like takes a while to get that out of your own system. So like that, like that shook it. Like that shook me, and obviously I'm a completely different person, better for worse. But like you gotta question that foundational stone. Definitely.
I just want to, since you said that, I just want to say that I absolutely hate the word assimilation.
Oh yeah.
Like and that's like officially goal of every government that accepts immigrants is for them to assimilate into the society. And I just like, I have such distaste for that word, because it reeks of like sameness, you know what I mean? Like you're just trying to create the same person that fits your, because you don't want to deal with anybody who's different from you.
Yeah,
I feel like people who do it well, like when New York, when you hear everyone speaking, you have a lot of immigrants trying to live in that same city. I feel like that's one way you can see it thrive, because they have those burrows of hardiness. Perhaps we should not go for assimilation, because one thing we do see with Naruto, and the things that he does reminisce on, especially for the people he meets and the people that he decides is a mentor for him, and so that he really adapts that and thinks about that, it's more of when you change that path, you can still be you. Because I feel like once you challenge your beliefs, you get a choice. Am I going to, do I feel more comfortable with my belief here? It's what I'll uphold, and then do I also take into account what they thought, and I edit that, and I get to really realize what my values are, and which he does a lot. He's like, that's my ninja way. One thing that you do see when he sees opposing philosophies that he doesn't mess with, is more of, no, like I want to take care of my friends. I want to see my family. I realize for these parts, yes, that part, if it harms others, then it's not a part of my philosophy, and it doesn't always have to be such a way. And then when you see him, when he has moments of when he does reflect, he does look into all of the beliefs and the philosophies he's picked up past, and you realize that you cannot stay in that one path, that one mindset. Once you go and see that and you start questioning your belief, you change to another one. You can still have those mindsets, but also in the addition of the extended knowledge of others, which I appreciate. It's a very good.
Yeah.
And
so,
yes.
I just want to, like, can you give me a little context? Like, how old is Naruto?
He's like 16, 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so he's like a teen. Okay.
Yeah. He is.
I was such a dumbass when I was 16.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's anime style 16, right? So for 16, like he's been 16 for so many years. Because
I feel like it wasn't the same. At 16, we moved a lot, and that's why I love Naruto, because he's always forced to be in different situations, and then you have to actively see him adapt sometimes in the blink of an eye, and that's why I really like this attitude toward it. But one thing, even though, yes, he's 16, 17, I feel like that's also, people underestimate how much, I feel like people need to listen to 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds, even though, yes, they can be a little touched, because they are the reflection of what they see in the environment around them. Nothing more, nothing less, not them hardening their views. It is them, they see what they see, and that's when you start kind of building the foundation for who you want to be in the future.
I feel like I definitely held this mindset when I was 16, where I was like, I am on track. I am perfect. Like
This is
don't
what I believe in.
this is who I am. I don't need to change anymore.
Yes.
This is where I'm going. This is what I'm gonna do when I'm 20. This is what I'm gonna
Exactly.
do when I'm
Right.
23. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, I'm 30. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like all the things that I decided that we're gonna do, like completely
Why?
changed.
Yeah.
Why do we have to go through the teenage phase? I don't
I don't
understand.
know.
I hate it.
It's weird.
Like every time I look back at myself, like what I was doing and the things that I like thought was like unshakable fact, it was just like stupid, so stupid.
Yeah.
And also, that's why I think you see that with the bullishness of Naruto, and that's why we were hardy when you're a teenager, because you're like, no, I'm right, you're wrong, get over it. And
right.
sometimes
No, that
he gets
makes
to be like,
sense.
you
It
meet
makes
people like, oh
sense.
no, we gotta you buck at
change.
people,
Yeah.
you go ahead and you have a meshing of wills, and that's why I adjust and say that. I'm like, keep a look hypocritical, because like, aren't we all really? And with that, folks, I appreciate that. But do you want to now
Go to
Yes.
Let's go to the next one because we can continue
love this one.
talking. All right, Gara. Next one is my all-time favorite character. I love it. All right. So his quote is, "Perhaps the companionship of an evil person is preferable to loneliness."
That sounds like
I love Lara.
abuse, damn near, no?
So, hypothetically, if you are in a world where there's nobody else but you and this other person who might be evil, but would you make friends or try to stay close to this person on an even arm's length because you don't want to be alone in this whole world? Would you? Would you do that?
That's a hard question.
That's a recipe for toxicity, but also with Gara, it's a special thing. What do you think, actually, for some people who didn't watch it? Because I can go off all
Okay,
day.
so the quote alone is does rub me really the wrong way. If we are in with the context that we are the only two people in the world, I guess I will tolerate this person, you know, but we're definitely not going to have a good relationship. Like I'll probably try to change this person if they are completely evil, but it's probably gonna not go well for me.
So as a like a little bit context on Gara, so he's the character who grew up as a kid without any kind of love, any kind of like
Anti-love.
relationship or physical touch from his siblings or his parents or anybody. So for him, he did live in loneliness and he befriended this evil demon tailed fox.
No,
Like,
his father was using him as a weapon, and he made him a Jinchuriki for the
but
first
I
the
mean,
one tail.
but he accepted the Jinchuriki because that evil presence was much better as a companionship than being alone. So in that
Yes.
context, yeah, you might not be the only two people living in the world, but what if you are in a situation where you didn't know anything and
It's more like-
it's better to be befriending somebody who is talking to you, even though it's an evil
kind
person.
of like tortured him
I
for
know.
many years.
Do
Yeah.
you think about like being completely alone and like I don't think I can even fathom that, like being 100% on your own might be just as bad as having companionship with an evil person.
That's true.
I
Honestly.
disagree.
I disagree. I feel like because especially given the with Gara, he was hurt a lot, and there is a great debate of, is Gara evil or is he sick? And here's the thing: from when if you go out lashing out and your friends can't be around you because you just keep murking people, yeah, you're probably a little evil. You can't contain who you are, and you do see Gara change because of the love of his friends and the adamant of that. I feel like this is more so. Oh, I wish I can remember when this quote was said, but if we're doing. And when we're doing this, I feel like this is the first time questioning it. And this leads to the question of, am I an evil person? Which leads to, am I worthy of love? Which leads to, I'm worthy of love. It's worth it to have friends. I deserve that. And you see that character develop. I feel like this was the first time, the first inkling that that is more like, okay, what is this relationship with myself? Is it better to be with this or rather than being alone? Because he hated being alone. It was such a dark turn. But I appreciate this because the question of, is companionship of an evil person is preferable to loneliness? No. But who is he speaking with? And is he speaking of himself? And if you believe that you are that evil person and that and do you think a companionship and being is still better than being lonely? Probably.
But doesn't matter who he's talking to. Like, let's say it's I am telling you this, or just saying it in general. What does that? Do you believe that loneliness is so much worse
No.
than
I'm an
just-
introvert. I
Yeah.
love loneliness.
Because I feel like it hints with a sense of self. Do you
Yeah,
like
but
yourself?
loneliness is different, right? Than being alone. Like, so I'm introvert too. I can be at home. Like when pandemic happened, it did not impact me as much as did like Rana. She went crazy because she's a super extrovert. But I was fine being by myself. But like being alone is different than loneliness.
Yeah.
And I think that's like if you are alone, but at the same time I can reach out to people. I have people I can reach
Yeah.
out. What if you don't have anybody?
Exactly.
And at that point, would you just take companionship with anybody who is coming in, and even if that person's evil?
If you drink from many cups, you will be poisoned.
If I might add something to the discussion,
Absolutely.
it sort of like brings up the question of what state he's bringing this opinion from, because he's existed this in his entire life in this world where no one is with him, no one like wants to protect him or help him or anything. So
Yeah, your dad keeps trying to kill you.
yeah, so, like, what are you left with to assume the world is like with that context?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a good comment from Matter911 who says, being alone is knowing you have people but want time for yourself. Loneliness is when you feel helpless and have nothing. So I think that's a good distinction to make between being alone and loneliness.
And I feel like loneliness can be anywhere, though. You can be in a full room of people and feel lonely, and that just comes with acceptance of self.
Yeah.
And that's why people, I feel like that's why people poison themselves.
Yeah.
They think they take the company of anything rather than having to deal with that loneliness and trying to understand why one feels lonely. But there's a lot. Oh, because if we're doing just it's hard not to do the context of Gaara and of Naruto with these quotes with it. But we can do the context of, yes, he was a kid. He was a kid. He was a teen. You got to deal with his tuning exams. I keep getting murdered by people. People in my own village want me dead all the time and actively have tried to do so from blood and not. Yeah, like this sucks. I'm very lonely.
I mean, I personally, like, if I take Gaara out of the situation, I don't know if I'm so against this quote. Like, if I am, like, to the point I'm so lonely that I have nobody to reach out. Like, I can't even think about that. Like, I can't even think about the situation where I am lonely that I have nobody to reach out to, anybody. And then this person, whoever it is, comes around and, like, yeah, they might be evil, but at the same time, like, hey, that might be my only person, companion. Yeah.
The only person who's showed me any type of attention.
Any kind of
somewhat
attention,
positive.
even if it's evil, like, what does evil mean to me at that point where, like, people have left me by myself? Wait, is this evil?
That's true.
Like,
yeah. Like the comparison of like like people leaving you alone versus like whatever this evil person did, like your, I guess, scale of evilness kind of would get shifted at that point.
I mean, we can go to extreme. This person can be abusive, and that's a whole different situation.
True.
But
I would love to tier system all the Naruto characters.
I do want to say, I'm still, I was listening to your arguments. I'm a little swayed, but I'm still against this being a good idea because I think I was 17 or 18 and I had like it was a weird situation with my friends, and essentially I just like experienced like severe loneliness because we didn't talk for a long time because they refused to apologize for something they did to me, which was fucked up. And because I was not with any of my friends, I started dating this guy, and he was very bad for me. And I spent 3 years with this person, and like, I benefited nothing from that relationship.
Yo.
So, you know, like,
that part.
I feel like if I was just by myself for the 3 years, maybe I would have been able to repair my friendship sooner than trying to have this evil person. I don't think it was evil. I think that's too strong. But, you know, like relying on this person to fix my life.
True. And I think that's also a thing, like when you're lonely, you jump into things too fast.
Yes.
Because you want to
absolutely
get rid of that.
So I don't think this is good wisdom to go by.
No.
Do you feel like
I'm
loneliness deals with the lack of wanting to take care of yourself? Does it become like, am I worthy enough to take care of myself? Because I feel like that's what loneliness stems for. Because I love being alone. And I know the times I feel lonely, but I felt less lonely after getting to know myself. especially at this age.
Yeah, I could see that definitely.
Yeah.
Because if you can find companionship in yourself, then
Yes.
then this doesn't even matter.
But you got a crazy demon in your head.
But I mean, it is true. I think in the end of the day, like I think everybody have learned a lot from pandemic. Like being alone is not bad. You just need to find that companionship within yourself. And sometimes that's hard. Just being in your own thoughts. It's like because you overthinking. I overthink things a lot to a point where like I need to shut down my brain and do other things. Yeah.
To add something to Marketa's point, I think there's something to be said about the wisdom that comes from understanding where the perspective is coming from, even if you don't agree with it. Because then you understand how to get them out of that perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because,
sure.
like, especially people in traumatic situations develop a logic that makes sense to them because that's the world they live in, even if that's not what the world is properly.
All
Yeah,
right.
we have Spidey in the chat here.
Hi, baby.
Said that was motherfucking sad.
Yes.
Thank you for trying to cheer us up, Spidey. Thanks for being here with 178 other people.
Oh my god, that is the most we've ever had.
Thank you guys for joining
all
us today.
Naruto. All right, so let's get into the meat of this whole discussion.
Oh Lord, this is not the
Pain.
meat.
The pain.
Oh no, honey, because let me tell you
character.
about.
Was this the
Pain.
potatoes?
So he is what like I'm not gonna say if he's evil or he's good or whatever, but we'll talk about his philosophy and then I'm really curious on how it goes because I think we can go either or. All right.
I love this part.
So war will never cease to exist. Reasons can always be thought of after the fact. Human nature pursues strife, religion, ideology, resources, land, spite, love, or just because. No matter how pathetic the reason, it's enough to start a war.
So Pain's one of the smartest people
This
in
is
Naruto.
a true statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So totally agree. And I think I'm going to go along the next quote that also goes along with it. So just by living, people hurt others without even realizing it. So long as humanity exists, hate will also exist. There is no peace in this cursed world. War is just a crime paid for by the pain of the defeated.
So a lot of things, and I love a lot of people, because in Naruto, and I'll be very honest, I'm more versed with Naruto Shippuden, so you do get a much more back layers as every series goes. One thing I appreciate is they will show you how people grow up. They will show you that not everybody was bad. And I feel like a lot of the villains that you see become villains because they observed the world.
So is
And-
Pain a villain?
So
His name is Pain.
oh, it was Pain. Well, when I was saying he's a villain, it was more so. I don't think Pain is. I don't think there's many villains, like true villains, except for whom he shall not be named. It is more so people have been affected by life, and there has not been enough comfort or examples of comfort in order for people to what is it called? Bounce back from that, especially being shinobi. That is a hard job. Your friends die in front of you. You can be the reason why your friends die. You try to save them and it all happens, and not having that comfort, and you just fester and you see there's nothing but war here. You guys fight just because independently of each other. Like, why not have just an overall power to take that away? Because you guys clearly don't realize how much hurt you're always showing, but it's also the perspective of once you feel pain and feel traumatized, that's all you will see and that's all you will feel.
So do you agree that we just living because of humanity just existing, that the war is just something that's always gonna be there because we just hate will always exist. Like we'll always find, like what he's exactly saying is like we will always find a reason to have a war regardless what it is, like love or whatever.
I think that power comes with, like, lust for power comes with corruption. And like, you know, the more power you have, I don't think that the power, like if you acquire power, I don't think it really reflects who you are. I think it just corrupts. That's, and I know like that is a whole different debate that we
There's
can
a whole
have.
thing, yeah.
But I think that is like one of the main reasons why there's always going to be war, because the people in power are just in pursuit of either increasing the power they have or maintaining it. And to maintain it, even just to maintain it, they need conflict and they need war, and they need an enemy to, you know, shine against. So
Yeah.
I'll even redact my earlier statements. Now I don't feel like Naruto's a hypocrite. I feel like we're all a little bit, but it's more of, and then it's not a bad thing because I feel like that's the first step in realizing it. We're all a little stubborn, and what I found Naruto to be the best example of is taking the time to learn another person, and then that's if you don't see it, you will not do it. And if you see more examples of people taking the time to be like, okay, and listen, because as he says, people hurt each other without realizing. It boils down to, do you have the tools to talk to your friends and be like, hey, this really hurt me. And it might be something minute to you, but it's something so large to other people. Like, actually, I'll be very honest, Josh and I have been replaying the Naruto games, like all because he hasn't watched it. And so it's been very, like, yes. So I've been like telling him all the tidbits they don't mean. I was like, this. But one thing that I had realized, because when I played it, I always play it when I'm like very depressed, when I'm feeling very lonely. But and it made me really realize and think back on a lot. And Naruto has one of the best examples of when he talks to people and he tells, and Oz all the whole, not just Naruto Uzumaki, of people talking to each other with opposing viewpoints and letting them know when they feel like off. Yeah. Be it during a battle, be it within Konoha or with other villages. Because even right now, when Pain is talking, there's 5 villages who hate each other.
Yeah.
And we're sending spies to whomever, so much so that it's so common knowledge, and we have all different levels of shinobi to spy on each other, and that's kind of ridiculous.
So going off of that, actually, Jake Gehring in the chat said, do you think people can truly understand one another?
Yeah, if the example has been shown, and it takes time and it takes emotional intelligence, but I fully believe that can happen. Yeah. Like even Sans Perviness, Jiraiya was a very good teacher and be like, people like, hey, like he taught him to take that patience to learn and also realize that you have so much to learn, and that is the best starting point for that we know nothing.
Like talking in a real, I'm sorry, Marketa, but just like in general, I do agree with like, I think communication, I'm all about it, like communication, even though I'm horrible at communication as well, but I do think that helps. But having an open mind is such an hard thing.
Yes.
And I think the one thing you said that was like people seeing other people like going through, like the one thing about the show and any show that we watch is like when we think like somebody's evil until we get a flashback of theirs as a kid, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, we didn't know this part. You wouldn't. And I think the one thing in real life, like we here I'm missing probably could help is taking kids on a trip to museums where like showing the history of what happened, not really like deleting the history. And like I was in Auschwitz and looking at the whole camps. It's like here we never go on trips, right? Like there were kids who were coming on a trip who realizing what like remember the history, and we don't have that kind of thing to, so maybe I don't know, I'm just like talking to them like, is that what it is? Is that how we understand somebody else, is knowing their history?
Beast Jaeger actually says the problem with trying to get everyone to understand one another is that one must talk with someone to understand them, so it's impossible for 7 billion people to talk to one another.
Why?
And I think that's like kind of going along with what you said, like seeing these things and seeing these museums and stuff is like a form of communication and like learning the things, like, but if you don't have access to that, then you can't learn. You know what I mean?
I feel like that we have the internet. That I feel like that is just the more opposing thing. But I will go into what I'm saying.
Not everyone has internet, though.
Yeah, exactly that. But what were you saying, Marketa?
So I wanted to say that, and this goes along with the communication and access to it with the internet and stuff. An average like Afghani farmer has probably much more in common with an American farmer than an American farmer has with his leadership, his country's leadership. So, I think personally that there is no conflict truly motivated by hate on the leadership spectrum, because there is just manipulation, power, greediness, wanting resources, wanting just more stuff, more wealth accumulation.
Greed.
And for that, you just need to keep the masses stupid enough to believe that they need to hate the other person and be jealous of the other person. But if people were truly able to talk to each other, like via internet, which they can, the world cannot do that, because resources are not equal, then you end up with hate. But I think that the hate is learned. and it's learned, and it trickles down from like the top, which doesn't even probably have that hate. They just use it
Yeah, they're manipulating.
to manipulate people that don't know better.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was saying for the internet, and I know very fully where the resources not even. I meant it for like right now. We have so much access to things, and it does take reading history in order to not repeat it. And I feel like most of the problems start with people not reading history, which is very irksome, especially like I love history.
But we don't
And a
even
lot of-
have the same history books everywhere.
Right.
I think that's what a
Exactly.
huge problem
So
is.
that also comes with education, because when one thing that I really loved, especially around my college, is my professors very much challenge anything. He can give you a full book about this country's history from one perspective and another, but you will not know about the propaganda that might already be in this history book unless you started reading it, unless you start reading a lot of it. And without that and that lack of awareness or the lack of example of people doing that, it's not going to be a common thing. But I feel like that is the best way for people to navigate. Like, especially for example, I am not well faced in anything. Living in Europe, Europeans know a lot more about America than America does. And so with that, a lot of my friends I appreciate, because they could come with the forth of knowledge of like, hey, you probably might not know this because I know you guys do it in this country, and they will be that buffer, and it made it an easier way for me to transition and then learn about their history. So when they come and visit me here, I'm like, hey, by the way, this is how we do things. I know you do it this way and this way and this way. I'm just letting you know people here are like this. And because I saw that example from them, I can do it myself. I feel like that was the helpfulness of learning the history, turning into learned action, turning into caring and giving other people grace, because you've already seen that happen, and that's how you can get people to start understanding each other.
So let me ask you this. Like, I think one part that I, as a kid, relied on and put my full faith was in my school system. I was like, my school, whatever they are teaching me is what it is, right? Like, as a kid, you're going to school to learn things. So what school is telling me what it is, and like you grow up and you learn. No, even in the same country, the history books might say completely different. And the only way to learn more is to question or go out of your own city, your town. And it's so hard. Like, I've met people who have never left their town,
but will tell you everything about the world, and it's done. It was a Dunning-Kruger effect. Please check in the comments if this is correct, but this is a phenomenon I see a lot, and it's the opposite of imposter syndrome. Like, I saw a meme that was like, oh, imposter syndrome, are you good enough to have imposter syndrome? That it typically happens with people who are fully qualified, think that they are not. And I feel like that is rarer than the Dunning-Kruger effect. It is people with limited knowledge feeling that they know everything. And that is the one thing that I've had the largest problem with, because it's like, okay, I know a lot, but I also very comfortable in knowing that I know nothing. With Naruto, it was nice to see like people speak with absolutism. This is the vision.
Everywhere.
This is and with him, because I love they show the background of the history, but when you get back to that point of the battle, Naruto doesn't know that. Naruto doesn't know that unless the person you see the next scene goes and tells them, or they go and hint back to like, this is my story and why. And I appreciate that you see Naruto or whomever he's speaking with, take the steps to still learn and still try to find that common ground with that other person, with the awareness that we come from different spots. I fully understand that, and you see him list the common ground. I grew up alone too. I didn't know who my parents were either. I had the village who thought to hate me too. However, I'm still going to do X, Y, and Z because I saw X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I can say that.
Deep.
Oh,
no, it's one of my favorite shows for a reason.
We've talked about 4 quotes so far, and like there's been so many parallels already between like issues that we've been facing over the last 2-3 years.
Oh yeah, like when we get to Pain and the stuff that he's saying, and it's like, this is happening right now. Like, this is happening right now. But you have to watch so many episodes to get to that.
Yeah.
But it is like, and that's what it kind of scares me, to just like, we do have to understand each other to learn each other, but there's so many of us. How will we ever be able to understand each other to get peace?
Yeah.
I think we need to live in hope, because I personally, I understand where Pain is coming from with the second quote, but I disagree with the sentiment that so long as humanity exists, hate will also exist. Because as I mentioned, and I know you also mentioned with the education system, sometimes teaching others and the young generation hate. And I think that if that can be addressed, and that's going to be extremely hard, but you know, with the democratization of internet, actual democratization of the internet, and also actual labeling of like fucking fake news and shit like that.
Teaching how to research.
Yeah, critical thinking, media literacy, all that stuff. Like, this is a long road, but I think that we just need to be hopeful, because I don't think that as long as humanity exists, hate will exist, because we've already come so far. I mean, 50 years ago, we lived in I mean, not me, but the United States lived in a fucking segregated era. And now we are not, well, you know, we have miles to go, but we are not official segregating people anymore.
Oh,
you know
we know.
I mean?
We just find it more hidden.
It is. I mean, I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying racism doesn't exist, because that's bullshit.
Oh no, I know you're not saying that. It's very much, but that's very true.
Yeah.
If I might interject
We've made
with something.
progress.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you guys think about this quote, because it really impacted me a lot. Was there is no such thing as good advice. All advice is bad advice. What matters is the perspective.
Interesting.
Is that from Naruto?
It is not. In fact,
Who said that?
I think it's from like a GDC talk that I saw like a few years ago, actually.
I disagree, but I also agree completely, because I feel like all advice, the advice from where it comes from is important. I feel like it's I feel like intent of the advice as well as perspective is important, and that will deem it good or bad. But also, it's advice is advice. I don't feel like we can't label it all bad or good, because one advice that you think is bad is probably might be the best solution for this person in that.
True.
Well, has it ever happened to you? You got an advice, and you picked points that matter to you, and through like ever happened? It's like somebody gave me advice. I like this portion of it.
Yes.
This portion.
And then you can dump the rest.
I feel like in that case, though, like the advice is still useful then.
Yeah, I guess
so. Maybe the
yeah.
quote has some kind of worth. You know what I mean?
I
It's
also
like your
think
perception of it.
I think that like I was personally given a lot of good advice from my parents, but I didn't appreciate it at the age that they gave me that advice.
Very true.
You know,
Gosh,
so
retweet.
like sometimes you think, oh, what the shut up, you know?
Yes.
Like, but then 2 years later, you're like, oh.
Mom was right. Yes.
It was a timing of it. Like, you just needed to wait a couple of years to
Yeah.
tell me that.
I feel like it's also examples, because like when in school, I wasn't not a fighting kid, but there was one time like I didn't realize these girls were bullying with me until I told my parents what was going on. And so my dad was like, "Nuck if you buck, knock him out." And I would be like, "I can't fight at school." My mom's like, "You should talk with them." Turns out my dad's advice was the correct one. And they stopped bothering me. And though I know, like when I was talking, because I also Naruto inspired me to hold counsel with friends, so that's why I asked multiple people the same thing. But I talked to a lot of people, and not everyone was like, you probably shouldn't fight. It was very anti-violence, but that was one of the situations where the bad advice that people viewed actually was correct.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. All right. Anything else on pain? Because I think we might only have time for one more.
No, what?
I know. And I had like extra in case we go all through it, and we haven't even gone through the first page.
It seems like the chat is enjoying it. Itachi Susano98 says, I rather like this discussion. Thank you for having it.
Absolutely. And we have so many because I have
can we
all the
actually-
characters.
We can
and
have a
think
part two.
Can we really talk about Itachi though? I would love a part two,
Part
because
two,
I feel
yeah.
like out of everybody's philosophy in this entire series, Itachi drops gems. Like whenever,
Yes.
like people, like every time I've been learned, like we stopped, even in the game, I was like, you need to listen to what Itachi is saying.
So we can skip to Itachi if we possibly could. Because I do have one and we can discuss that. All right, perfect. Itachi. All right, there's two of them. They do go together. So knowledge and awareness are vague and perhaps better called illusions. Everyone lives within their own subjective interpretations. People live their lives bound by what they accept as correct and true. That's how they define reality. But what does it mean to be correct or true? Merely vague concepts. Their reality may all be a mirage, can we consider them to be simply be living in their own world shaped by their beliefs?
So as a kid,
QAnon.
I had no idea what he was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
QAnon.
QAnon. Oh. Yeah, well, literally, I agree.
It's
What
just
do you think, Gabbie?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we've like almost touched on this already with the last quote, but I definitely agree that like perception is reality, and you are shaped by your beliefs and your environment and stuff like that. And like we spoke about before, like you can change those beliefs basically, like by questioning them and stuff. And so I definitely agree with this.
I have a weird question for you guys.
What's up?
When you were like kids, like 5, 4, that type of kid, did you sometimes like wonder if what you see or hear is actually what other people see or hear?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. Oh, my parents are very much about Sonder. And with the word Sonder means everyone lives in their own reality. So when we grew up, we were very adamant, and I feel like one of the best lessons I learned from them was that everyone has their own experience. And if people, but even with Itachi, I feel like we actually haven't touched this fully, because in order to understand, you must be really made aware that everyone is in their own world.
even
And-
yourself.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
and very much in yourself, and that is how are you able to reset yourself if you're not made aware that everything that I know may be wrong at any given point, and that's okay. And I feel like a lot of people don't have and that's okay part. I love Itachi because he very much comes in and like bunks you on the head, and he's like, hey, no, look at yourself. Is this really, are your thoughts and beliefs, what you believe are rigid, are they actually holding? And if you see that, and if you break out of that and realize that your perception of reality is not everyone's perception of reality, then you must go moving forward that everyone believes their perception of the reality only of their world is right, and that's all that they see, because everything is truly subjective.
Yes.
Everything about life is truly subjective.
We have a comment from the chat from Reading Group, and I just want to say, like, I've always thought this. How do we know that what I see as red is what you see as red? I've always thought that. And then when I was a kid, I was like, how do we know if we're seeing color the same? There's literally no way to know.
Oh yes, it is. There's it's community building, but also that's how kids learn they're colorblind, and I love that we did it in the class because a lot of art, we had a bunch of different shades of red, and a lot of girls like, oh, this is salmon, this is these colors, and then one guy was like, they're all red, and they're like, no, do you not see the gradient?
They're not.
Of it? And then that's how we collectively named these colors so that we would know when we see it, this is this color. We've all agreed this is color, and that's how our teacher taught us how society is built.
But what if you're seeing that color as a different color? Like, how could you explain that? You know what I mean? You can't.
And that is actually what she was talking about
Yeah.
too. She's like, well, how do you, and then it comes with communication and the vocabulary. Like, I know that what lighter and darker means, but if someone who's colorblind, they might not be aware of, wait, what does that mean, lighter? And we have to agree, what is lighter, what is darker? And then after you establish that, you move forward.
And the language also like very much reflects your culture and your environment. For example, you have like people living where there's a lot of snow. They will have several different words for different types of snow.
Yes.
Whereas we will just have snow and slush.
So,
you know.
I mean, going to that then, like, that's a great activity that I didn't, I'm sorry, Marketa, did I cut you off? No. Okay. That's like a great example, like a teacher explaining, like, this is how community works. Then, like, thinking about it, it does bring the concept, like, okay, maybe everybody is thinking together, because if we can agree on that wall is green, and that means I'm not living in my own reality, that means we all are collectively living in this thing. Like, this actually, honestly, took me really, really long to really realize that everybody is kind of, not that I didn't know, but it took me a while to understand, like, hey, everybody has their own experiences which shape them to be themselves. So what I'm feeling might not be what they are feeling. So that took me a while. It's like, okay, when I'm telling you how I feel, this is how I feel. You may not agree with it, but this is how I feel because of this. And all I want you to do is just listen and say, yes, I understand.
So on a real, not to bring it in, hi babe, I love you. We had actually that exact verbatim conversation, and that took, because I Google everything. Like if if they like partners feel like, how do you comfort them?
Oh my God,
I'll
me too.
Google.
Me too.
And that's so, and it helps loan with you vocabulary, but it also, it comes down to you have to be sharpening in how you communicate, and how you do that is by learning the other's perspective so you can understand how they may take it. How do I get my idea across to you for a way that you can understand, and then be able to tell you that, because like I'm like, when I'm mad and this infuriates me, I don't need you to tell me it's a big deal. I need you to hear me out. And my thing is feeling validation. And also you see those different types throughout Naruto too, because most of the time you have some people like, I know what I need to do, and all you need to give them right now is just comfort of your feelings are valid. I fully understand that. I know that you will find a solution there at this time. I just need for that.
Yes,
that
I 100% agree with that. I'm always telling my partner, like, I don't need you to offer a solution to me. I just need you to listen to me and let me know that like what I'm feeling is valid.
Yeah, and you hear like, and oh my goodness, I wish I had it up because there's a really good conversation that we just watched in on the 4th game of Ninja Storm between
Careful.
I'm trying to describe him.
Careful.
Shorter-haired man who's trying to do things rather than longer-haired man who tries to do things. It's just him and Naruto.
Brie, just let this thought go. Just let it go.
No, there's very much. It's an important, because one thing that he says verbatim, and he's like, I understand that you are hurt. I understand that this Millie feels lonely, and you see him being like that. I understand and I hear you. And then he comforts him by showing him his story. He's like, you are you, and he's like, no. And it's so funny when sometimes you also meet people who are like, no, even though you try to comfort, but he goes to the different levels of comfort. He's like, we can do this. I understand how you're feeling. You are angry. I understand that you're expressing your anger here. Then after he does all that, he's like, this is a solution. He's like, you can just come with me. We can change this. There's no ending for this. We can go and still make this right. And I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Itachi. I love
Oh, not
Itachi.
being sensitive. And also one thing I think people need to understand, it's not being sensitive. It is people need to understand how to comfort, and there's levels of it. The first thing that people usually feel is anger. And sometimes you need to talk to them. Do you want comfort or do you want a solution? And people need to understand how the steps for that.
Yeah, so it's so hard to find, like, not give a solution. I think it's just like the other person let me know, like, hey, I just want you to listen. I just need to vent. Like,
Yes.
fine. I will just listen and not get a solution, because my immediate like, how can I solve this pain that you're feeling?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yes.
there's nothing we can do. Just
And some people jump to the end where they're just trying to make you laugh, and you're like, I'm still angry. And that usually is the last step. It's those steps that need to be followed. And I feel like that conversation I could write a whole dissertation about, because you see him truly take all of those steps, and he takes it in time.
yeah. And Hunter, you had something?
Wait. Yes. I just wanted to say, if you were curious about looking into more of like where a lot of this philosophy comes from, it's a lot of it is rooted in the Buddhist beliefs, particularly that of how like understanding the nature of contradictions helps you better understand the concepts of nature.
Yeah.
And that's where you get a lot of those quotes, or like the sound of one hand clapping, a tree falling in the forest, and no one's around to hear it, which people will jokingly answer and miss the entire point of it. But that's where a lot of that is coming from.
I love that. My dad and I was going to be Buddhist monks at one point. My dad was actually going to train to do it. I was just like dabbling. But that trees falling one is one that makes more sense with every year. And it was war with Itachi too. After you see that full arc, it was the realization of, you might not see someone's pain. And especially with feelings are nothing that you can dispute. They're irrational. People feel feelings, and that is okay. And they're subjective to each person. You can't tell someone that's not how you're supposed to feel. I'm feeling this for a reason. They're indicators of what you need to listen to for yourself. And just because you don't see it falling, you don't see that pain being held, it doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I feel like Naruto's very good at pointing that across. And especially when you find how much sacrifices people actually did and the steps they took, and you're like, wow. And as a kid, I was just like, oh, energy. And like, this is crazy. But rewatching a lot of these animes as an adult, it's like, I see a lot of myself in it, and I see why I take certain steps or go certain ways, or which I try to, and also see myself bullishly doing things and why I fumble through
You understand more, right? Like, you live your lives like rewatching an anime that you may not have understood any of it when you were a kid, but like growing up, was like, okay, I understand. I see what you're coming from. I can see it.
So,
And it takes a lot of energy.
Did you both watch this when you were younger?
So I watched Naruto when I was younger, and I started watching when were still catching up on Naruto Shippuden, so it was all fillers. That's when I stopped. So I started watching Naruto Shippuden with Normies.
Okay, got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Naruto was like one of the main constants in my life, but we watched it way before a lot of people because my dad loved anime. So we were during way past the tuning exams, and like we were more on track with Japan releasing Naruto than here. So wherever they met with Rock Lee, took off his ankles, and people didn't even know who Rock Lee were, and we're freaking out. My dad had VHS tapes of that, which you'll find out later. And that's why as a kid I was able to watch it. And then Naruto Shippuden, I started watching with my teens, so it kind of felt like I was growing up with Naruto.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so that's why I very appreciated the bullishness, or sometimes when he was like when people would be like, no, and you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm really hard and I'm gonna stick to myself. But yeah, that's very much that. to
That's
answer
so
your
cool.
question.
I feel like I overall have like a different appreciation for Naruto at this point. I like I said in the beginning, I have not seen any of it. I don't watch any anime yet. Maybe I don't know.
You will start. You work
will.
for Normies.
I will know pain.
I think you would love that. And I would love to go over these quotes because literally Nejis, I used to tell people and people got mad at me because I think it's so true, but I would love to do another part too because
There's so many. And there were so many that I have put extra. I was like, rest our extra if we need additionals. Like, we didn't even get through what we needed.
Yeah, we didn't.
But, Marketa, do you have anything else to add to Itachi's before we wrap this up?
I don't know. I feel like we kind of skirted from
The actual Itachi's quote.
Yeah.
Went through a whole
Talking
side
about
tangent.
feelings and such. And I think that, our feelings are also part of our reality. But when it comes to, I guess it comes to interpretation of everything. So however you interpret what you see, what you feel, what you sense is your reality. And if you interpret a certain lie as truth, then you can go down a very slippery slope. And I feel like that's what's happening lately, especially in the United States with like QAnon and all that stuff. And it's terrifying how quickly that can happen and how irrational and radical people can get in a span of a few months.
Yeah.
Because that happens so quickly. And
Yes.
so that's why like this quote really seems very true and very terrifying considering the last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like also the fact that people had a lot of time on their hands and were stuck at home didn't help in this. And also the fact that, again, media literacy and critical thinking is not taught in schools.
Can we really just read this and close this out? Because I feel like it's the perfect quote to close it. It's the Hugo one.
Yeah. Let's do the Neji Hugos.
You want to read it?
Sure. Neji. The difference between stupidity and genius is that genius has its limits.
Let me tell you. You want to talk about gems?
This one is the best one, and I can't believe I didn't put it like on top. I was like so debating, but yeah,
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
funny. And
I
true.
mean, yeah, stupidity just continued going, and I think it goes back with with Itachi as well, kind of
Yeah.
like with especially what's happening in the world right now. We all living in our own world.
Yeah.
We are just taking in the information, the knowledge that we're taking in. Apparently, that's vague and it's like illusion. It's knowledge only to us. But if you are smart or you're genius, like you can understand it to a certain point. Like if you just want to knock it out and just like I don't want to take this in. Like this is against what I believe in. I don't want to offend anybody and say like the stupidity, but it's like it can continue going, right? Like there's no limit to it.
Yeah.
There's just sometimes you just gotta stop fighting with somebody because they are not listening to you. And it's like, this is where we are.
Oh, never argue with fools.
Stupid is a lost fight.
Yes.
From the get-go. You just
Yes.
avoid it. Avoid it.
Yes.
It's horrible, but it is.
Choose your battles.
Yeah.
That's what I've always heard.
And all right.
I would love to do. Let us know if you want a part 2 because we haven't even touched all these quotes, and I would love to do this again once
This
you
is
guys
great.
finish Naruto.
Yes.
Naruto Shippuden, because I would love to see the philosophical arc because I feel like with this path there is a lot of philosophy that's there. I feel like a lot of it gets turned on its head, and you get to see with many people who you assume with the same philosophies can deviate from each other.
Oh yeah, there's so many characters that I could not bring in because we hadn't watched it to that. But like we didn't even touch Jiraiya, Nagato, like
Right.
Kakashi for God's sake. There's so many that we haven't touched on. Yeah, so if there's a part 2 that you guys are interested in, let us know. Obviously we were all over the place. This was just like starting the conversation and we'll just talk. It was just going to be a discussion, and if you like this kind of format, we have so many of them we'll continue doing, because Naruto is just one of the shows. All animes have some kind of philosophy that
Yes.
some people believe in. Like Attack on Titan, I think can be a great
Yes.
example where we can talk about it. I was like, I don't agree with it, but sure, we can kill everybody to make peace. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
I
would
would
be a
hope
whole.
people aren't ignorant enough to think that there is a deviation between new and old anime. There is always value in it if you know where to find it.
Yes.
And one of the things that I love was another quote from here. It takes time. It's more, and Uncle Iroh said it best. If you look for the light, you will always find it. If you look for the darkness, it's all you ever see. If you only want to see trash, you're going to see trash. But if you do look for, a lot of these things do have certain different values. So that's what I'm learning.
Absolutely.
Uncle
That's a good way to
Aaron.
end.
Everyone in the chat is requesting a part 2. So.
Yeah!
Thank you guys so much for being here in the chat. You guys were awesome today. So active.
Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, wonderful weekend, and we will see you guys next time.
Smoke bomb.
Ready?
I
It's
should
about
have learned like some.
For you to speak your mind. Super secret girls club. Super secret girls club. Super secret girls club.
Thank you all so much for watching this week's episode of the Super Secret Girls Club. We'd like to give a special shout out to our super patrons, Michelle, Sakif, Clayton Davis, Exploring Dylan, Dane, Mr. Momus, and Joe Mags. Thanks again, and be sure to catch us live over on Twitch.